All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to this Monday. If you don't have your journal out, please get it out. Get out your journal, man. You have it? No? Here, I'll give you a little bit of paper in case you have something you want to write down. You got a pen? No pen? What? Living on the edge, man. I think I have one here. If you don't have your journal out, pen or paper, oh, nice. You got a pen. Outsourced. Great. All right, yeah, I see you. I see all of you. Make sure you get something out. You can make a doodle. You never know what you want to do during this time. You have your journal?
I don't.
You have some paper,
I think I did.
a pencil. You never know what's going to come out on the page.
Making sure. Like if you clicked it and I wasn't there to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all good. All good. All righty. Let's get down to business here. So I hope that you had a lovely weekend. How many of you slowed down a little bit this weekend? Raise of hands. Raise them high. You should be proud of slowing down. Nice. Because last week, Molly was here, and she delivered a fantastic lecture exploring slowing down. And as we were collaborating, Molly and I, on that topic, I noticed that my ability to slow down really fluctuated depending on the month, depending on the circumstance. And we met every Thursday morning at Webster's Bookstore Cafe to talk about this topic of slowing down. And seldom did our conversations not mention the perceived impact that our digital technology usage had on both of our abilities to slow down. And so we had a little bit of an intro into digital technology this past week. And we're going to be diving deeper into that today, into technology. Because I think it really has a profound impact on our presence. And even the ability to recognize our choices that we have in each moment. But before I get too ahead of myself, I know that some of you have met me. My name's Autumn, and I work with Jen on BiSci 3, and I've been doing so for the last 3 years. And I work mainly to train the next group of TAs, because I was in your seat not too long ago as a BiSci student. And then I was a TA, and I TA'd, and I TA'd, and I TA'd. And then I became an assistant for the course. And I also am a master's student in education development and community engagement here. And I'm always trying to get better at my teaching. And so at the end of the lecture, I have a QR code to a survey for you all if you want to use your digital technology, or I also have some printed copies up here. So if any of you want one of these at the end, please do so that I can just get better and better at teaching. And so getting into digital technology here, seldom when I'm walking on campus do I not see somebody with their head down, looking at their phone, with some sort of headphone or AirPod situation going on. Who can relate to me? So yeah, this is a photo that I took on campus, the bus stop. And I think there's something about this here. There's something that we need to look into. I calculated my screen time this past Wednesday. it was 7 hours and 50 minutes. This included time I was on my phone and my laptop that day. And that day I woke up at 6 a.m. and I went to bed at 10:30. So with some calculation, I was awake 16 hours. Almost half of my waking time, I was on a screen. And so I want you all to do this activity for yourselves. So I have finding your screen time directions here. So I want you to take out your phone, whether you have an iPhone or an Android. And something about when you have an iPhone, you can check your screen time with both devices. And so just share across all devices. I don't know if that's possible on an Android. But then after you get to that screen time, calculate your waking time when you went to bed last night, when you woke up, when you went to bed. And this is why you need your paper in front of you. You need to write this down so you can do the math. Right? I got all you. If anyone has any challenges or they have a different type of phone, feel free to raise your hand. How you doing? You getting it? Where's your screen time? Okay, let's put this away. What is this? Is this some sort of application?
Set it up, but just down. Just had to make it.
Okay, all right. So raise your hand if you need more time. Okay, nobody needs more time? How many of you found that you spend half or more of your waking time on a digital device? Raise your hand. Raise it high so everyone can see. Raise it high like this. You see me? Here we go. Look around. Okay. Now, emotion wheel. Talk to your partner about how you feel about this. Okay, let's come back together. Let's hear from some people. So who has an emotion that they want to share around this? Let's get some of your voices in the room.
Thank you. Looking at my screen time, I would say I was both surprised and happy because I'm not gonna lie, my screen time is usually very high, like 7 hours a day probably. But for yesterday, it was only like 3 hours, like 52 minutes, and today it's only at like 3 hours. And I find that like it's not like intentional like me like being on my phone, but sometimes I'll get really busy or like I'm hanging out with my friends, and so like in those moments that I'm engaging in other parts of my life, I'm not um on like any like other technology. Like yesterday I was playing volleyball with my friend in the IM for literally hours. So it was like, okay, I'm not gonna be on my phone. So yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Who else can relate? They felt surprised and happy about their screen time when they looked at it. Okay, I see Parker's hand. I see Emily, Lauren. Okay, cool. Anyone have other feelings that they want to share around that? Yeah, sure.
I feel like I noticed a lot of my time came from my schoolwork rather than being on some sort of social media. I think that a lot of the classwork I have is online, so I'm on my laptop and I have to be doing that. That's not something I can avoid. I can't just decide to not be on my laptop. I also know that I don't have that much time really to be on any sort of social media. And like when I'm going places, I'm usually listening to an audiobook rather than scrolling on like Instagram or TikTok. And I find that really lowers my screen time. But I noticed that a lot of my time was coming from my computer because I was looking at it was like 4 hours today, but the max I had on social media was like 33 minutes. And then I realized that it was accounting for all the time that I was doing my homework or on my laptop in class doing work.
Hmm. Who can relate to that? Raise your hand. Okay, see some hands there. You're not alone. Do we have another hand over here? Another feeling, motion?
I feel rather relieved and proud of my screen time because, like her, I've spent the majority of my time on like audiobooks. I spent, I think it was 1 hour and 40 minutes this week on the average for Spotify, and that's because I'm just like listening to like lo-fi study beats as I'm doing my homework or as I'm biking to class. I have my earbuds in, just listening to some nice, relaxing, and peaceful music. So the majority of that time I don't spend on social media like TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. So that's why I feel proud of my screen time. And I feel like 4 hours, it's distributed among like Safari, Google, Audible, and Spotify. So I feel like that's the appropriate amount of time to be spending on your device, especially when you're in college.
Some? Sweet. Does anyone have any other emotions that they want to share? Yeah, we have one over here. We'll take this one more and actually, you know what? I can get it here. Right here. You got the little mic.
How do I use the little mic?
Yeah.
I was very surprised because unlike maybe some of them, I try to limit my screen time as much as possible with like in-app blockers, but then I still find that I'll still spend more time on those apps than like I was supposed to. Like Instagram, I'll try to block it after like an hour of using it, but then I'll still unlock the app and then scroll on Instagram for a whole nother hour. And I was kind of surprised at that. And I also calculated like I'm going to bed at like 12, 12:30, and then waking up at 6. I calculate I need to get more sleep and then spend less time on my phone. So I was just mostly surprised at the way that all that calculated out.
So, thanks for sharing. Does anyone else use app trackers, app blockers? Raise your hand. Nice and high. Okay, you're not alone with the app blockers. So yeah, there are quite a few emotions that come up. Happy, surprised, interested, curious, I heard right when I asked the question. And when I was younger, I heard that it takes 21 days to make a habit. Has anyone else heard that? Okay, sweet. This is kind of an overgeneralized idea originating in a 1960s book titled Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He did a study where he was a plastic surgeon, and what he was doing was he was doing these surgeries like a nose job or something, and then tracking how long it would take for someone to get used to their appearance in the mirror after these surgeries. So he found that the average was 21 days, and that kind of just spread through culture, which is really interesting. But in recent articles, it was revealed that everyone has a different habit building timeline, ranging from 18 to 254 days. And so looking at all these things, we were talking about shopping earlier in the semester, video games, playing the guitar, alcohol use, headphones, all these things that we do on a day-to-day basis, they come from somewhere, and we have these rewards that allow us to continue doing things or stop doing things. And dopamine is one of those chemicals that kind of organizes what we do on a day-to-day basis. And as I've been looking into this, I was finding that more dopamine is released when you are on the chase instead of when you get the reward. And so, for example, when I'm pouring my coffee in the morning, I'm releasing more dopamine than when I take my first sip of coffee in the morning. And that's how a lot of these social media platforms are designed. You're scrolling through and trying to find the thing that you're looking for. And that chase is what keeps you scrolling. The doom scrolling, right? That's what, we all call it. And so, yeah, this book, very interesting how that happened. So how does this relate to your digital technology use? Talk to your partner a little bit. Okay, so let's just come back together and hold the thoughts. Hold both your thoughts about how this impacts digital technology. And then also hold your partner's thoughts about how this is related. Because I've been taking notes on when technology is mentioned in this class. It's been mentioned a few times in a lot of different lectures that we've been in. And in the happiness class, one of you asked if our society would ever be able to break out of technological addiction. Does anyone remember asking that question? Parker, that was you. Okay, let's get the microphone up there. What's addiction to you?
Just give me a second for me to think about this because it is a bit of a tough definition. But if I were able to define addiction, I'd say it's something automatic embedded within your survival. It's almost as if your mind is playing a trick on you that you need this or this is necessary in your life, even though it's merely just a myth. Like you can survive without this, but you're so attached to this just by, dopamine, all these chemicals in your brain that is forcing you to stay connected to something you're not proud of. Usually, addiction is something we're not proud of, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's substance use, whether it's social media addiction. It's something we all attach ourselves to because we're afraid to confront the reality of what it's doing to us.
I think that was a great definition. Does anyone with maybe more specialized knowledge of addiction want to add to that definition at all? Or do you feel as though Parker covered what needed to be covered? Anybody want to add? Okay. So basically, it's something that you're doing that's not necessarily good for you, but you're doing it because you've created this habit around it. When you ask that question, someone else answered that. And I have it in my notes over here. You said, the person said that we would stop using technology when we saw that it was harmful. Does anyone remember answering Parker's question with that answer? Okay, that's okay. Because we're going to do a little exercise here. Who here, with a raise of hands, thinks that digital technology use is more harmful than helpful? Here's your hand high. And does anyone feel comfortable coming down to the front of the room to defend your stance? Okay, how about you? You can come down. Who else? We need 2 more people who had their hands raised there. Ashlyn, come down. And 1 more person. Well, how about you come on down? Okay. I saw your hand. Will you come down? Okay, and now who here thinks that digital technology use is more helpful than harmful? Raise your hand. Okay, I saw your hand first. Would you want to come down? Okay. Okay. No. Okay, keep your hands up. People, more helpful than harmful. Okay. Anyone want to come down? Down. All right, we need 2 more people. Come on, this is a learning experience. All right, nice. Come on down. Okay, so we have more harmful than helpful over here. And we have more helpful than harmful over here. And so what I want you to do in your group is you're going to create 3 points. Everybody, you got to listen to this because this is important instructions so that everybody knows what's going on. You're going to create 3 points to defend why you believe what you believe. Okay, and then you're going to share it with the other group. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that. Now, everybody out here, you're also going to be writing down your points on why you believe what you believe. Do you believe that it's more helpful than harmful or harmful than helpful? You're going to write down your points. And if you think that your point is going to help your side, you can come down and tell your group, whichever group you feel called to, so that they have a better chance of winning this debate. Okay? So now I'm going to give you 5 minutes. This is awesome. That's great. To do that. Go ahead. What?
You want me to give them the mic when they talk?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, up here. I could do one group and then you can do the other group. What do you think? Thank you. Thank you. My friend made them.
Oh, really?
Jordan, who sometimes comes to this class. Yeah. She started Earthly for the Planet. And I trained to be advised to TA with her actually a long time ago.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. She's pretty awesome. She was an LC too.
I've always wanted to do like actual dance. I have to figure out how to sew. Yeah, I love paint
I love quilted jeans too. I'd love to make the quilted jeans patchwork. Yeah.
That's just so creative.
I'm gonna make sure that I don't go over time here. I guess we'll come back at 59, I would say. And we'll share the points and still have so much more to talk about.
I really like this.
Been working on it. It's a hard one. Last time I just had students come to the front and talk, and it just did not feel like a lot of learning was happening. I felt like I needed to create a little bit more structure around it. So
I
this
feel like
feels better.
this reminds me a lot of like an activity that we would do in like the TA training. You know what I mean? It's like get in your group, talk about your feelings, and then it's comments. So it feels like it's kind of comforting to see like all of them do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna check in with these groups here. How you doing? Do you have some points?
Yeah. Yeah.
Share? Okay, sweet.
That doesn't really happen without technology. There is ways, but not a way substantial enough to make that much of an impact.
If you all want to use the whiteboards, you can, but it's up to you if you want to write down anything. How are you all doing here? Do you feel like you have your points?
Yeah.
You can use the whiteboard if you'd like, or you can just deliver them. All right, yeah, if anybody has any points that they want to bring down to the team, feel free to do so. We're going to be starting in like about a minute, so it's your last chance. Yeah, we were brainstorming. Awesome. Yes. All right, we're going to come back together here and share these points. So, which team wants to start here? Are you all ready?
I like that.
All right, it looks like we need a little bit more time, everybody. Go quickly here. Do you know who's sharing for each?
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Sweet. So who wants to start here? Which side would like to talk about their points first? Okay. Sweet. Want to use this? And you want to introduce yourself too, because everyone should be proud of you to be up here right now.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ash. I'm in Mallory's group. I love Mallory. Anyways, so our 3 points are lack of attention span, artificial connection, and dependency and addiction. I'll talk about the first one.
I think that one just a little bit better.
I'll talk about the first one. So, we put attention span can be very negatively impacted so that there is a total lack of attention span. This translates to a lot of different parts of technology. One being like your attention span to just know and describe information. Lots of people are using AI or just like Google to look up answers to things instead of taking a few seconds to think of something and like have an organic response that they thought of instead of technology thought of. Um, and it also is relevant to games and social media that are on technology. Um, a couple examples we discussed were like Pokemon Go and like other games that have like an algorithm built in that make you get addicted to like tiny rewards throughout it, or like suggest specific things that the algorithm knows you will like, which will like hook your attention span on for even longer and prevent you from giving that attention to other tasks that might need it more. Um, Another part that we talked about is just like simple things like crossing the road. Some people don't look up from their phones or like pull down their hood or take off a headphone to look both ways before they cross the road. And it goes both ways. People that are driving, whether it's on a bike or on in a car or whatever, they tend to rely on their phone either for directions or just doing something else that's not related to driving, which takes your attention away from the task at hand, which is literally, it can be a life or death situation. So the fact that our attention is harmed so much and like kind of sucked away from the tasks that we need to be focusing on so much is very problematic, and one reason why we think technology is more harm than good.
Hello, my name is Jahad. I'm talking about artificial connection. I think with social media and a rise of technology, we're often comparing ourselves to other people on social media. This person has this really cool trip coming up. I should be having that really cool trip, et cetera, et cetera. We also built these very parasocial relationships. And I just want to speak to a very like personal um, connection with this. I had to delete social media off my phone because I'm always like scrolling and I'm always comparing myself to someone else. And I'm sure that's not an original experience for me. I'm sure everybody else has sometimes when they're comparing themselves to other people. And it just really decreases your mental health. And we also talked about how social media and the rise of technology wasn't a thing for so long. And the fact that it's a codependency thing now is truly an issue. So that's a second aspect of the issues with the rise of technology.
I always like it when the person speaking brings the audience involved because I feel more connected to the case. So raise your hand if you sleep next to your phone or watch your phone before you go to sleep. A good, decent few of you. And it's not because you can't like stop it, have the mental restraint to not watch your phone at night, but it's the scrolling, the dopamine rush that you were talking about earlier that keeps you hooked on the same thing over and over again. Cereal brands have been doing this for decades with sugar. They've been adding more and more sugar to cereal, so you feel necessary to keep eating cereal, even though it's bad for you and making you obese. They are gaining, they are gaining, uh, they're gaining money and profits by having cereal, but that's not the point. Addiction to technology is the point. The scrolling dopamine addiction is what's keeping you hooked and keeping you locked on and making more profits for the companies who own the apps on the phone.
All right, transitioning over to the other side.
So my name is Dennis. How many people are far away from home? Okay. How many people have family members that are far away from you right now? You have readily accessible access to them whenever you want with your cell phones. I had family in Korea. I was able to trick or treat. My niece wasn't able to actually go trick or treating because it was banned during that time in Korea. So what we did was we set up different devices throughout the house. We had about 7 devices. We had a bowl of candy. She dressed up, and she was able to go trick or treating with her brother. We were able to do that through our family group to where if we didn't have technology like that, we couldn't do it. Growing up, I didn't have access to a phone. Our phone was a cordless phone in the house. If you wanted to get in touch with somebody, you had to find a phone, call 911. Communication is made connecting with each other almost instant. That is what we crave is human connection. So I feel that communication, that's what these phones represent.
My name is Brett. I'm going to be touching on education, and then more specifically, just the sheer access to information we have is unprecedented, and there's been nothing like it in human history. And it's just driven our innovation and how we continue through life as a species so much because we're able to share information faster than we've ever been able to before. And if you peel back past the doom scrolling and the short little videos, there's so much information available online to where you can learn so much. And if you just take yourself into it and you start to learn and you read these different things, you listen to audiobooks or podcasts or different things like that, there's so much information out there that is so valuable for you to have. And you can learn from so many different people at such a faster scale than we've ever been able to before.
Hi, so my name is Miguel. I'm going to be touching about accessibility. So our phones are basically a tool that is personalized to all of us. But there's a lot of communities that we have seen, for example, the people who have autism people, then we have people who are blind that very benefit a lot from this type of technology. Not only that, but there's also other ways that it has helped a lot, especially in impoverished countries. This access to technology, this access to being able to see different methods of how to help your community, for example. People who I met a person from Pure Buddy. I don't know if anyone knows Best Buddies here. Who basically he was blind and a little deaf, and he was able to communicate with me with a system in his phone. So of course, there's a lot of things that social media propagate, but there's other tools that our phone offers that actually has helped a lot of other communities that we have seen could have suffered more or wouldn't be able to communicate with us as effectively as now.
Thank you all for coming down and collaborating to come up with these points. I want to emphasize, going back to the dualism class, it's not either or. There's potential for it to be both and. And so, fantastic points to open new questions for all of you to think about your own use of technology, how you're taking it for granted, how you're also appreciating what it can do for your lives. And so you can go back to your seats. We'll leave those points up here. Thank you so much. Great work. Great work. Awesome. And the beginning of the class, we talked about our own personal relationship to technology. And I also want to talk about the impact that digital technology has on others and the planet before we conclude the class today. And so the smartphones, tablets, laptops that we have are composed of over 30 different elements. So on the periodic table, you can see some of these elements in here. We have the cobalt, aluminum, titanium, silica, magnesium, gold, silver, and all of these materials come from all over the globe. As more demand for chips to put in both our digital devices and our cars, maybe Google Glasses, and all of the servers that we are putting into data centers all over this country and all over the world, as this increases, what problems do you think that that might generate? Does anyone have a thought? What problems will be generated as more demand for these chips that require these materials? I think Parker has something there.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of us becoming over-reliant on technology. And as they start to appear in Google Glasses, like cars embedded, and like maybe even water bottles or something, it's it's important that we don't allow it to possess us or kind of take over our lives. We should use it as a tool, not as a replacement for our creativity in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so a lot of these rare earth metals can be found in a lot of different places. Deep sea trenches have a lot of these materials. Also, China has a lot of these materials, so it creates dependencies on other countries and other countries' resources for us to get access to these materials to build these technologies is another component of it. And so I'm going to keep going forward. How many of you have followed the Artemis 2 mission? The first time that humans have returned to deep space in over 50 years. This 10-day crewed flight marked the beginning of a new horizon for colonization for humans. And this Artemis mission that's landing in early 2028 is going to be another time when humans are going to be on the surface of the moon. And I've been reading a lot of articles on how these rare earth elements can also be found on the moon. And so there's more, there are more questions that arise there. What are we going to be taking from the moon in the future? Will our technologies have resources that come from different planets in the future? Very interesting questions. And then I want to pivot just one more time because there's another component to these devices that a lecture about technology would not be complete without. And that is artificial intelligence. So how many of you have used AI in the past week? Raise your hand. Okay, look around the room. It's a lot of people. How many of you have professors who are pushing you to use AI on your assignments? Go around the room. AI has the potential to do some pretty incredible things. And this is another classic demand and supply situation. So data centers, there are now over 4,000 data centers in the US alone, according to the Pew Research Center. And this data center is in Indiana on 1,200 acres. And this is a video that Jen sent me from a New York Times article. Just incredible, the absolute scale of these data centers. So what's in these centers? They're composed of servers that are equipped with powerful computer chips that use the same materials that I was talking about before, that can perform trillions of mathematical calculations per second. And these chips require the sourcing of rare earth metals, and it's estimated that data centers consumed 183 million megawatt hours of electricity in 2024. And so just to put that in perspective for people that are not electrical engineers, average household in the US uses about 10 megawatts hours of electricity annually. So 183 million megawatt hours in 1 year for one of these data centers, 10 megawatts annually for your home. This is projected to grow by 133% by 2030. And the next largest component of energy use at these data centers, this is a map of all the data centers from the Pew Research Center, where they are in the United States. And this is a pretty recent map. This is what they look like. And this is what I was going to talk about now. In 2023, US data centers consumed 17 billion gallons of water because they require water to cool all of these servers. Because as they're doing these calculations, these mathematical calculations, when you put in a search on AI, it heats up the server, and then you need water to cool the system down. So 17 billion gallons of water. Usually these data centers are placed in low-income rural communities after being built. They offer kind of low economic gain because the biggest gain is the building of the center, but when the center goes up, then there's nothing for people to do in there, really. They don't offer a lot of jobs. So a lot of communities are really suffering with these data centers going up in their communities right now. Also, the rise in energy costs are already being seen monthly, and the cost varies by state, but it's something that maybe asking your parents about, or even, if you have an apartment of your own, you might be seeing that yourself right now. Another thing, going back to those low-income rural communities, is these broader impacts of rapid technological advancement on others disproportionately affects marginalized communities as well. So it's the same thing, remember in the climate class when we looked at the two sisters and how they were talking about how, like, people who are benefiting from these things don't really see the effect that they have on us. And that's something I think is really important to consider. These are a few books. I have a resource sheet that I will link on Canvas for you all to look at the sources that I used when I was composing this lecture. So this kind of goes more into the digital divide. And then this one, there's a researcher at Harvard who is studying this stuff, and this is his most recent book talking about how technological advancement, not just in this age, but in previous ages, has changed social constructs. So, iPad kids, we got Google Glasses, and then we also have the potential. How many of you have heard of Neuralink? Raise your hand. A few people. Just curious, who would, okay, so if you don't know what Neuralink is, it's a chip that Elon Musk is developing to put in your brain to be able to have you, have access to a lot of things that you wouldn't have access to regularly. I mean, I don't know a ton about it, but how many of you would be open to doing that? Raise your hand. Okay, we got one in the back. You can talk to him later. But it's just very interesting how these technologies are advancing. And I want you all to think critically about your stance, what you believe, why you believe it, and your role in the evolution of these technologies. Because destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. And although you may think that your choices don't make an impact, AI was built on interconnections. It's modeled off of the human brain. And as we've seen, the broader world functions in the same way. Everything's interconnected. The question is not what will AI do to our society, but what will we allow AI to do to our society? You have your choice of discussion question today. I had a lot of fun coming up with all these questions. And so feel free to take a picture. We'll also be posting this on Canvas so you can see the bottom. And please, if you can, fill out the learner satisfaction form. It'll help me become a better educator. And I also have printed copies down here as well. Thank you so much, and make it a great day. Learner satisfaction forms. Anybody want to fill one out for me?
I don't know if I have the time to fill out a satisfaction form, but I mean, I could just tell you in person.
Okay, all right.
That I think that this was a very like fun idea for lecture, and I think you did a really good job of engaging everyone, especially with like the hand raisings and like really like asking questions that not just pushing that, you know, I think sometimes I have class and it feels like getting pushed in the direction. I like how you made the overall message that we should figure out our own stance and how we feel about that. Like, even if I would say I'm someone who supports AI, but I'm ready to defend that and I have my reasons for it. So I like that we kind of went with, I don't know, like make your own choice. Don't, you know,
You don't have to
right,
be
you don't have
going
to
in a
follow
certain way.
one direction.
Thank
I
you.
guess my only thing that I would say when people were a little confused on was kind of following like some of the customs that Jen had taught us. Like, for example, when we're done talking, like she like rings this bell and everyone knows it's time to be quiet. But then since you didn't have a bell, I was just sitting up front, so I noticed you're saying, "All right, guys, let's get back together. Let's, you know," and no one could hear you. No one was listening because some of those customs that
Didn't
we've
carry
been
through.
doing since we.
Okay.
But
Thanks.
I
I really appreciate your feedback.
of course.
Thank you.
I would say, sorry, I rushed out last night. I had to take a phone